Good morning on another Monday edition of Coffee with Rich. I am not in my studio. I'm in an Airbnb in beautiful Beaufort, South Carolina. Join me with me this morning is Will Wood. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rich. How are you, buddy?
I'm living the dream.
Awesome.
Hey, while we're waiting for folks to jump on, let's talk about sponsors. Looks like we got one viewer on so far. Hit that like and share button, and we'll talk about sponsors, man. Keep this whole thing going. We got amazing sponsors like Century Martial Arts, makers of the Bob XL. If you want an amazing striking opponent, look no further. The Bob XL's got you covered. Instead of doing cardio, mindlessly running on a treadmill, you can do a strike routine that will burn the same amount of calories and actually teach you something self-defense related. You can also shoot Bob, choke Bob, stab Bob, although I wouldn't recommend the stabbing. I've done some of that, and that does not do well. It might damage your Bob. Anyway, we've also got the Cool Fire Trainer. Cool Fire Trainer is an amazing dry fire training tool. And right now, with ammunition prices being what they are, don't dry fire, cool fire. Although I will tell you, they're so popular right now, you probably got to wait 2 months to actually get the Cool Fire Trainer. Looks like Tony is on from Brunswick, Georgia. Good morning, Tony. And let's see, we also have Appalachian Standard over at apphemp.com. My friend Jesse and his family are making some amazing CBD products. Matter of fact, I was telling you before we started, Will, that I had dinner last night with some of our friends, some retired Marine, another retired Marine officer, and he was saying that he's been rubbing CBD salve on his feet. He's got a lot of pain in his feet from years in the Marine Corps infantry, and it has really been helping him a lot. So there's another reason to check out the CBD products that they're making over at apphemp.com. We also have sponsors like Precision Holsters. Precision Holsters, maker of the amazing tactical belt that I'm wearing this morning and the Ultra Appendix holster that I'll be rocking here in beautiful South Carolina today. Please check them out. They're veteran-owned, made right here in America. They have a competition line. If you're into that, please check out Precision Holsters. And all of our amazing sponsors can easily be found in the show notes today over at AmericanWarriorShow.com. And you can get the discount codes for being a loyal follower of the American Warrior Show or Coffee with Rich. And let's see if I got them all. I didn't bring my cheat sheet. If I think of another one, I'll remind her. But we're very fortunate to have all the sponsors we do have. And so let's see. Robert is on. Says, good morning, men. Good morning, Robert. Jesse is on. Says, good morning, gentlemen from Michigan. Coin number 2,221. My lovely bride, Miss Lisa, is sitting right here in the Airbnb next to me. Tony says, nice fireplace. I know. I was just saying, Will and I both have brick backgrounds this morning, blue shirts. Can't get better
than that. It's a sign of being one of the cool kids, is what it is.
Yeah, that's right. We make it look easy. Alan Kelly is on from Occupied, Virginia. Good morning, Alan. And my brother, Jeff Brown, retired maritime law enforcement officer, is on. Says, hope everyone is well. Hey, please take a second and hit that share button, and I'm going to read Will's amazing bio. I've been really looking forward to doing this show with you, Will.
I have been looking forward to it, Rich. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Mark is on. Says, good morning, Rich. Good morning, Will. Jacksonville Beach, Florida. That's a beautiful place. Okay, so Will has been flying since the age of 12 and has been a student of martial arts and self-defense for nearly as long. After completing college at Southern Illinois University with degrees in aviation flight and aviation management, the career path took him from instructing students in single-engine aircraft to his current position as a captain for a major U.S. carrier. A lifelong interest in firearms led to his desire to develop and enhance those skills. To that end, he has taken courses with Mike Seeklander of the American Warrior Society, my dog, and some guy named Leatham who says aiming is useless. Kyle Lamb of Viking Tactics, Paul Howe, John Krupa, Spartan Tactical Training Group, and Blackwater. Will is an active competitor in USPSA and trains Jeet Kune Do and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In his spare time, Will enjoys shooting, being on the lake with family and friends, and reading. What are you reading right now, Will?
Boy, not much right now. I've been fighting this Rona that's going around. The most recent book I read that I really enjoyed, you and I have talked about it. It's been a little while back now, was oh gosh, and now it escapes me, of course. By George Friedman, The Calm Before the Storm.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting study of demographics and economic cycles. really, as scary as it is, we're still in the calm before the storm over the next 10 years. It's an eye-opening book. Really changed how I saw things. I'm conservative, and so I always saw things on that left-right paradigm, and I don't anymore. I don't think it's that. I think it's more of an elite versus commoner thing. Really changed how I'm viewing current events.
Yeah, and I did read that book. I thought that, you could probably skip to the end if you're not interested in the historical context of where we are now, because he does a really good job. Mr. Friedman does in walking his way through the cycles, starting from the founding of this country until today and into the future. But if you probably just read the last few chapters and get all the takeaways you need for where we're heading. So
yeah,
good stuff.
I enjoy the history of it, as I'm sure you did. I really enjoyed the history. I grew up in the 70s, so starting with it was really interesting to read about the Carter administration and how he was trying to use old philosophies to govern the country, and Reagan embodied the new. People wanted more freedom, more less government control. The 9 scariest words. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Right.
Yeah.
So Reagan more embodied the change that had happened than really was the change, if that makes sense. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I did too.
And he's got another book that I enjoyed quite a bit. It's called The Accidental Superpower, and referring to the United States, but that's all about geography. That goes all the way back to the Middle Ages, and before, talking about the Egyptians back in the day, and how they used the Nile. And I can never remember which way it goes. It flows north, and the prevailing wind is from the north. Yeah, the prevailing wind is from the north. So you've got a river that's a 2-way highway. And they used that to their advantage and had the desert as a natural shield against attackers. And while that let them advance their society to a great degree, there was also no competition to force them to get even better. So then when other groups found a way across the desert, they thought the Egyptians were actually quite backward. So and it goes all the way up through sailing vessels in the Mediterranean and the wet compass and deep water ports and the spice trade, all the way through the United States. Very interesting book as well. The Accidental. Yeah. He also has a good newsletter, Geopolitical Futures, I believe it's called. It's a daily email, quite reasonably priced. I've subscribed to that one.
Is that the one that you send me stuff from?
The one I normally send you is the Forward Observer. The Geopolitical Futures one doesn't have as much day-to-day interesting things in it, but it does talk about geopolitics, and it gets into some technical stuff. There's multi-syllable words that confuse me, so I tend not to read that one as much.
Yeah. I hear these commercial airline pilots are very simple animals.
Ask my wife. Yeah.
Let's see who else is on here before we get going in today's show. And I like today's show, the plan that we have, Will, because it's going to be kind of singularly focused on how you plan and conduct your travels as much as you do, which is much more than most Americans, but there's so much to learn by how you do it. Bob is on, says, good morning, gents. I'm off to work so I can afford a gallon of California gas. Well, good luck with that, Bob.
Yeah.
I hope Gavin Newsom gets recalled because, as he said on The View, California is a coming attraction for the rest of America. If that's so, I'll get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Will is on, says, good morning, Missouri here. Manhar over in South Africa is on. Manhar says, morning from lovely South Africa. I spent some time in Jacksonville after shooting with Mike at the IDPA World Championships in 2015. And Manhar, I will say, I spoke to one of our new members recently, and I would tell you, Manhar, that he said he was inspired to join the American Warrior Society after listening to your show when you're a guest. So you really compelled him.
That was an awesome show. I really enjoyed that one.
I did too. And there's so many lessons there. Manhar and I are going to be putting together an article based on a lot of the lessons he learned going through those horrific riots. Razmik is on, says, good morning, Rich. Guile in the Philippines is on, says, good morning, Rich. Good morning, Will. God bless the United States of America. Thank you, sir. Will Parker is on. Rasmic is on. Says, good morning, everyone. Will Parker, coin number 800. If you want to find out what a coin number is, you're going to have to check out the American Warrior Society. Will is on. Montana. Good morning, my brother. See you soon up in New Jersey with some training we're going to be doing for our federal group. Dave Brothers is on. Good morning, sir. Coin number 1997. James Knowlton. Wade. Mark Hamilton. Jeff Brown. Dave Frazier. Good morning. All right, we got 20 folks live. Let's kick it.
Awesome.
Let's see here. I want to talk first, I guess, about before you start a trip. Now, of course, if you're just now joining us, my name is Rich Brown. I'm the co-host, co-founder of the American Warrior Society and the American Warrior Show, America's #1 self-defense podcast. We're joined by Will Wood, who is a commercial airline pilot for a major U.S. carrier. We won't go any further than that. So you do travel a lot, Will. Talk us through the pre-planning, please.
Sure. Now, for my normal work trips, I'll be the first to say I don't go through and do all this because I've been to these places a lot and kind of know where to go, where to stay away from. Some of this is going to apply more for a family vacation. I did a lot of this. We took a family vacation into the Caribbean a few years ago as our first trip to that island. And I spent a lot of time looking at stuff. So I start with, especially if it's in the continental U.S., crime maps are a huge help, especially if you're going to be driving yourself around an area you're not familiar with. You know, you might be going from A to B, but there's an area in the middle there that you don't want to go through. That sort of thing is a huge help. My two favorites are, and I'll send these to you, Rich, if you later, if you want to put them in the show notes.
Yeah, please.
It's adt.com/crime and city-data.com/crime. And both of those let you get down into zip codes, and you can map it out even by neighborhoods in some cases in larger areas. That's, that to me, that's huge. If my hotel's in one part of a city, or in the case of my trip to the Caribbean on an island, and the place I want to go to is on the other side of the city, I don't need to go through the bad area with the family. We're not looking for that much of an adventure. You know what I'm saying? So, and that lets us plan our routes. As we're seeing in some larger cities right now, there's a lot of shootings on the freeways right now. And those tend to be isolated into certain areas, and those will show up on these maps as well. I'll also research, local news stories. It doesn't take you don't have to look at them for too long to figure out, okay, there's a general pattern of, okay, this area is not a great area. Stay away from there. It's, as my old Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor used to say, don't go down the dark alley. I asked him one time, how do I get out of a rear naked choke? He said, don't go down the dark alley, Will. So it didn't work. He still choked me. The next thing I really like to do is look for the hospitals. It's real easy to say, oh, I want to go to that one that's out there in the burbs, it's, it has the white picket fence and the shrubbery and all that sort of stuff. But conversely, the one in the worst part of town probably deals with a lot more serious injuries than the one out in the hoity-toity suburb. So if there's a car accident and you decide to self-transport, even if it's a few minutes longer, you might want to consider going to the place that deals with traumatic injuries on a regular basis.
Yeah, let me talk about that briefly. Good morning. Mark Hamilton is on from Toronto. Wade is on. Thank you to everybody that's on this morning. Please like and hit that share button. We got a great show for you this morning. Something we haven't really talked about in great detail. And so we're going to be talking about travel considerations. But you mentioned just briefly, Will, the idea of finding where the hospitals are. So when I was in the Marine Corps, we were doing a demo shoot down in Fort McClellan, Alabama, and never been there before. It's an Army base. So we go down there and we're using their demo range, and it's great and it's awesome. Well, at the end of the day, one of the Marines, he gets heat stroke. So and he's one of my guys. So we're throwing him in the video. The corpsman's working on him. It's me and the first sergeant. I'm driving the Humvee. We go to the base hospital. Guess what? Fort McClellan's being decommissioned. The base hospital shut down. So like, oh my God. So now we're out in town in a Humvee. It's all bad. And we're trying to find a hospital. This is before you had
GPS.
Oh yeah, internet, anything. So we're
Okay,
like,
right,
where's the damn hospital at?
right.
And lucky the kid survived and did not die or have any serious brain injury. But I will tell you, had we done that, if
Mhm.
we would have shaved off at least 15 minutes off of running around town in a Humvee trying to find a hospital. So
Yeah.
definitely take that into consideration. Great point.
Yeah. The other thing I do is I own a little piece of land on the north side of town that I built my own gun range on. And if I'm there with people who aren't from the area or aren't that familiar, I'll make sure the keys get left in my truck and I'll program in the way to the hospital into the GPS. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, if something happens to me, chuck me in the truck and follow the GPS. And I'll just leave the GPS on while we're shooting. And that way, if something happens, it's one less thing.
Yeah, yeah. Because again, your brain is going to be it's going to be spending a lot of mental bandwidth on other considerations in a
Mhm.
traumatic event. The least you can do, to take up some of that space, I think, the better. So we talked about hospital. We talked about level of care. Tell me about packing.
Um, Packing, it's I always get a kick walking through airports and you know you see the guys with the grunt style shirts on and whatever the shirt du jour is, and hey, that's cool, you be you. It's cool shirts, I may have a few, the but don't put stuff all over your bags. I see people with bag tags, whether it be some grunt style stuff or stickers all over stuff. I've been outside watching airplanes getting loaded, and here goes something that's obviously a Pelican case, and it's got every sticker known to man. Magpul, go down the laundry list.
American Warrior Society, right?
Well, yeah, there's at least 3 or 4 of those. Um, the it's like, gee, I wonder what's in that case. I always threaten to take and put a bunch of far left stickers on my gun case just to make it look like a guitar case or something. I haven't gotten around to it, but you know, little urban camouflage there. And that actually ties into as well, when you're out there, like a few years ago, the family and I went out to New York City for a family wedding. I dressed just like this, just nondescript. You couldn't tell where I was from, probably other than the Midwest accent. There was no, Magpul shirts or, political stuff. Just don't go there. Me walking through New York City with a shirt on that says whatever that's anti-leftist or pro-right isn't going to change anybody's mind. It's just a chance to start trouble.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. And there's a couple of different things I want to talk about. One of the things is something you and I talked about in the pre-show. And good morning, John. Thank you for coming on from Yukon, Oklahoma, coin number 1919. Please like and hit that share button. Thank you to the 22 folks joining us live. What I did, I was mentioned at an IDPA match to my jiu-jitsu coach, Cody Hudson, who's a federal law enforcement officer. I said, hey, man, I wanted some stickers for because I know he's into four-wheel drives that makes my rifle case look like it's got car parts in it. Mm-hmm. So he's like, brother, I got a bunch of stickers. I'll take care of you. So he came the next time I saw him at class, he gives me a stack of all these automotive part stickers. So I put those all over my case. And you would never guess there's a rifle in there because it's not a Pelican case. It's some sort of black hard-shelled case. But I think that's sound advice, man. Anything people can do to lessen your footprint. I mean, look at the way we're dressed this morning. Mm-hmm. There's nothing about the way we're dressed that, call it gray man, call it whatever you want, but it's a great idea. Cool guy stickers on your bags, on your car. Like you said, you're not going to change anybody's mind, man. All you're going to do is draw attention. And the last thing I'll say, I don't know if you've seen this, Will, but we were in Tennessee, obviously, yesterday where we left, and we're in South Carolina today. I saw in the last 2 days, I have seen more people open carrying than I have ever seen before. We went to Lowe's. I saw 2 guys open carrying. Went to Walmart. Saw a couple guys open carrying. We were somewhere yesterday. I can't remember where it was, but gas stations open carrying. A guy was changing a tire open carrying. I mean, it was just like I see it everywhere. So I don't know if things going on in the country are causing more people to do that. But what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not an open carry fan. If I'm out in the woods, hunting or prepping to hunt, something like that, then I open carry, because if if I come across the big brown non-cuddly type animal, I want to be able to get to that as fast as possible, right? And it's more convenient. But I'm not a fan out and about around town, what have you. It makes a lot of people nervous, which we can say, well, that's their problem, not mine. Well, yeah, but it's not going to help them bring them over to our side of the cause, right? And I would feel like I just had a target in the back of my head the whole time.
And I've never seen anybody carrying that was using like an SLS or ALS or some kind of really high quality retention holster. Matter of fact, I've seen a lot of Serpas and stuff like that. That, and the guns are always, anyway, you know where I'm getting at. You can look at the person.
Yeah. Starts with a K.
Yeah.
And I have my own story with a Serpa holster. I am not a fan of Serpa holsters. It was the typical Serpa mistake, but I did not do it to myself. Somebody else did it to me.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So that was, I still have the holster. But it was not a fun experience.
So let's see here. Tony says, I wore a collar shirt and jacket. Dr. Fuller sets a high bar. Yes, he does. Alan Kelly says, yeah, rich gray man indeed. Thanks, TC. And of course, TC has a YouTube channel called The Old Gray Man, where he gives lessons on how to blend in from his time being an FBI agent.
Awesome.
So yeah, good stuff. So you talked about packing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what else.
Well, the last thing I do before I travel somewhere is, after I kind of get a general feel for how the area is I'll ask around. Friends I know, I'll ask them face to face. I'll also ask via social media to anybody, friends of friends, hey, ever been there? What'd you find? What was it like? And there you can get some good information, but you also have to consider your source. If it's somebody who's not switched on at all, and it's gonna be like, oh, everybody was awesome, it was great, but they're not the type to really watch a situation to understand what's going on, it may not have been all great. So consider your source on that one. It's going to be skewed based on their personality, their level of awareness, their level of security knowledge.
Yeah, I've talked to people like that. Oh, I go to South Side of Chicago all the time. It's no problem.
Yeah.
And like, unless you're looking for trouble, I'm like, okay. Yeah. And you can just assess the way they're dressed. It's like, you just got lucky, bro. That's the reason.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
just because you poke the bear and nothing happened doesn't mean the bear won't kill you.
That's exactly right. So let's talk about what's next. We want to move from the airport to the hotel, those transitional spaces.
Yeah, like as our friend John Correa says, those transitional spaces is a little bigger picture. I'm always very careful if I use Uber or Lyft. Both of them are pretty darn good, pretty easy. Here's the license plate number. Here's your driver's name. Check those things before you get in. And I'll do the old, my driver's name is Joe, and I'll be like, hey, Rich, how you doing tonight? He'll be like, oh, no, I'm Joe. Okay, good. So we just got a little bona fides going on here. And the license plate matched up. I'm not one who really worries too much about that in larger, more reputable type areas. If it's a cab, when you sit down in the back of the cab, there's usually identification tag there with the driver's name, information. I'll just obviously take a picture of it and text it off to my wife or a friend or whatever. And I'll make it pretty obvious that I'm doing that. I won't try to be clandestine about it. In fact, quite the opposite. I want to be very obvious about it so they know, somebody else knows who I'm with. Yeah,
exactly. And my friend James Knowlton is on. He's from Southside Chicago. He's now a law enforcement officer in a large metropolitan police department. God bless you, brother. Glad you made it out. Manhar says, great topic. It's similar to advanced work in the protection industry with regards to Uber. I always sit behind the driver. Tony asks a question. Are pilots allowed to fly armed? Do you want to answer that question, Will?
There is a program for that. Yes.
Yeah. It's called I'm going to go ahead and tell you so Will doesn't have to. There are pilots out there that go through a lot of training to be federal flight deck officers. And many of them are members of the American Warrior Society, I have found. And yes, in those cases, they can fly armed, but there's a whole lot of restrictions to that. So we talked about Uber and Lyft. Is there anyone that you recommend above another one?
Not really. No.
Okay.
Pilots are notoriously cheap, so whichever one's cheaper is usually the one I go with.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead. You talked about tracking your. I think we talked about that.
I'll just bring up Google Map, Apple Map, whatever map you like, and okay, we're going to the hotel, and if I'm back there with someone else, I'll be like, oh yeah, it says right here we'll be there in 8 minutes, or and I'll just make little comments like that. Uber and Lyft, that's a set price, but especially for a cab driver, you never know when a cabbie might try to run you up on a fare because you're not familiar with the area. So, just a couple little comments like that will usually kind of keep things on the up and up. Let them know you're paying attention.
Yeah, and I see in our notes here you're talking about don't sleep while you're traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems obvious, but I was reading a book from the 90s, one of these safety and security books. And it said, if you are going to sleep on a train or in a taxi, here's what you do, Will. You're going to want to take your shoes off and your socks off and put your foot on your bag because your feet are so sensitive. You're going to feel if somebody's taking your bag. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, let's.
And then you also can't chase them down if they take your bag.
Exactly. Now you're barefoot in this bad environment. It's just. There's so much better advice out there, man.
Yeah, there is. And the scary part is somebody paid somebody to write that stuff. Yeah.
I was a guest on another podcast, and it was pretty much a women's only podcast. And they were like, so Rich, you're the security expert. What, here's what I do. I have wasp spray. And I'm like, that's a terrible idea. Why not just have pepper spray?
Yeah.
Well, no. And when I walk out to my car, I have my keys in my hand.
No.
And I'm like, no, have you ever take Bob, the body opponent bag, and punch him with your keys in your hand and then have somebody drive you to the hospital, get your hand stitched back.
Yeah. It's so much of that stuff, and I learned the same stuff as, you heard it back in the day. That was just what we were told. Right. And
exactly,
you only have to punch a couple things with those keys in your hands before you realize, no, this is not fun. I'm better off just learning how to throw a real punch and punching somebody.
Exactly. So anything else on the Uber, Lyft, taxi cabs?
Not really. Just, be aware. And this is where, your pre-work, is there is the direct line from the airport to where you want to go to your hotel? Is that someplace you really want to, go? Maybe you want to go out and around. Maybe there's part of a neighborhood there you don't want to go through. You can even within that, maybe you don't want to roll in on that red eye that gets in at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning and then go through the bad part of town to get to your hotel, because chances are that Uber, Lyft, cab driver is going to take the most direct route. Maybe it's not a good idea to do that, middle of the night.
Yeah, I did. When we were doing some advanced work, it was like, okay, this particular European airport only allows, like, there's a concession granted to this cab company. And let's say it's the Rich Brown Cab Company, so that when you get there, you're like, if it says Rich Brown Cab Company, okay, it must be legit. It's got all the trappings. Their cars are branded like this. So you can do a lot of this advanced work. The other thing with Google Street Maps, you can look at the date at the bottom of the Google Street Map and see this street was mapped in 2014. So maybe it's not as current as it should be. But like I've said on this show many times before, you can actually walk the streets before you actually get there to see everything you want to see.
Yep, absolutely. And every little bit of knowledge like that, if something goes sideways, you just never know what's going to be valuable until the moment it is,
Yeah, that's exactly right. So talk to me about rental cars. How often do you do rental cars?
Family vacations, day-to-day stuff for work. We don't deal with that. Back when I used to fly, I flew Gulfstreams in corporate and charter world. We had rental cars everywhere we went. And that was a little different because the company paid for it. So it wasn't as big a deal. But I know when I went to the Caribbean, come to find out, property damage on vehicles there is very common. Breaking into vehicles is very common. There wasn't a lot of interpersonal violence there in the islands, but there's a lot of property crime. So in talking with my insurance guy, he said, he goes, it will cover you down there, but it's going to take a long time. It's going to be a lot of hassle. You're going to put many, many hours into defending whatever happens. And he goes, and then we're just going to jack your rates up. He said, if you buy their insurance, yeah, it's going to cost you an extra few $100. He goes, but then you're just going to take the car back and go, there you go, it's yours again. And it was worth it, I think, for the peace of mind, especially when we came out of a tourist attraction and the passenger side mirror was missing. Somebody just took it right off the van. So I just took it back and went, yeah, it's gone. And they went, okay. And that was it. I got on the airplane and left. It was no big deal. One thing I do with rental cars is I am meticulous before I drive them off the lot. Video, pictures, any little thing that's wrong with it. I'm that guy walking around with my phone. It's saved me a couple of little hassles. One thing to be aware of, and it can depend on your insurance, so check and be very careful. I had a bad experience with a rental car out east, and it was on personal travel. They said I damaged the car. And I knew I didn't damage the car. I picked up the car in the middle of a biblical rainstorm. So I didn't have any picture or video. It was not a well-lit area of the lot. And they said I scuffed the bumper. I drove the car like 80 miles, let it sit at a hotel, and then took it to a drop-off location at that destination. And we went back and forth, and finally they sent me a bill, and it was for not only the repair to the damage, it was also for the loss of value to the car because now it had damage history, loss of rental income, which of course they put that ridiculous, the $350 a day, whatever it is, before all the, discounts to make it competitive. And of course it was going to take like 6 days to fix it. Right. It wound up being like $8,500 for a scuff on the bumper. And I wound up fighting it in court, and that was the end of it. But it turned into a big deal. So just be aware of that if something happens with a rental car, it can be more than just, I use ABC insurance. Here's my card.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because your own insurance may not cover the things like that, loss of value and things like that. So check with your insurance company before you just sign off on just using your own.
And let's talk about that. I'm going to go a little deeper on this because
Sure.
I've rented cars all over the world. And normally, like if you, your credit card, if you book it with a credit card, the credit card will cover the car. But there's an asterisk, and you need to read it because we rented a car back in last year, right before COVID hit, January. And the asterisk, if you read it, it says that rental cars in South Sudan, all these, Yemen, Northern Ireland, and that's where we were going, Northern Ireland, not covered because of terrorism. So I'm like, oh crap. So in that case, you better buy the insurance from the rental car company, because you think you're going to be covered, you're not going to be covered.
Yep.
So definitely do your homework. And every country is a little different. Like in Ireland, I think the Republic of Ireland, you rent a car there. If you get a scuff on the bumper, you're responsible for buying the entire car per law. And you have to initial like, hey, this law has been explained to me. The car is yours. You're responsible for shipping it back to your country of origin. I mean, like it's your car. You bought it now.
Yeah.
So be careful with stuff like that. Jeff gives us some pointers here. He says, in most Eastern European countries, dress in dark clothes and look angry. You'll be good to go. If you're walking around smiling, you will stand out big time. And of course, my brother spent a lot of time in Latvia and other places in Eastern Europe. And he's always said that, man. It's like everybody over there is smoking cigarettes, wearing dark clothes, and looking pissed off.
Yep.
You definitely want to fit in wherever you're going. So we talked a lot about rental cars. Tell me about once you arrive at a hotel.
So, I see a lot of people checking into hotels or around hotels really fast and loose with their room numbers. That's like your home address during that period of time, right? I don't give just anybody my home address, and I sure don't stand, in the middle of a bar or restaurant and shout it out. And in fact, along those lines, going back, that reminded me going back to the bag tags. Don't put your home address on your bag tags. They know when there's an empty house.
Can we talk about that, man? I was in
Sure.
this is crazy. I was in New Orleans about to board the flight, and I looked down at the bag tag of the guy in front of me, and I kid you not, he lived on my street, and I'd never met this guy. And I just looked down, and like, I lived on Bostic Circle in South Carolina, and I looked down, and he was like 55 Bostic Circle, blah blah blah. I'm like, I didn't say a word to him. I just like, my neighbor, and we're going to the same damn place. But yeah, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, just put down a work address, or don't put down an address at all. You know, they're not gonna, if your bag gets lost by an airline, they're not just gonna send it to some address on a bag tag. They're gonna track down whose it is and say, Mr. Brown, we have your bag. Where would you like to send it to? It's pointless information. You're just handing information to somebody who could use it in a bad way.
Let's talk about that a little bit deeper. I have a pseudo app. So you can go on to in the app store and download pseudo app, and they will give you can make up a name, and they will give you an email to that name, a phone number that will ring to yours. But when it comes in, it'll say, like, let's say my pseudo name is Brian Wall. Good morning, Brian. He's on from Mississippi. Let's say my name is Brian Wall, and that's my pseudo. It'll be like brian.wall@whatever.com. And it'll give a phone number so that when my iPhone rings, it'll say Brian Wall, meaning that's who they expect to answer this call.
Okay.
So you don't, I say all that to say, you don't owe anybody anything.
That's it.
I can give you any name I want to protect myself and my family. If I want to be Brian Wall on this trip, that's my business. I don't think there's anything immoral and unethical about it. I'm protecting my family, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So if you look at the bag tag and that little thing that the airline gives you, Brian Wall, and here's the phone number and here's the email address, that's great, because the airline's not going to use that, like you said. You know.
Yep. Yeah, I'm now every time I go someplace, I'm going to be Brian Wall, just so you know. That's going to stick in my head. But yeah, you don't, you know, I'm born and raised in the Midwest, you know, Midwest nice, right? And I see people, it's just like, no, stop. You don't, you know, if you're at home, you don't have to open your front door because the doorbell rings at 1:30 in the morning. There's no social contract there. You know, there's no obligation if I'm out somewhere to, you know, necessarily stop by the side of the road where 4 hinky looking dudes are changing a tire and help them out. I'll bet they have a cell phone and they can call 911 if they need help, or I'll pick up the phone and call 911 and say, hey, there's some guys in trouble back here. You know, stack the deck in your favor.
And you can go as deep as you want to with this. If you check out my good friend Justin Carroll, who's going to be visiting us on the farm here in Tennessee at the end of the week, his book, Complete Privacy and Security. Let me give a shout out to that. It's amazing. And he covers a lot of techniques on there. Like, I'll just give you an example. You can request another card from your card company. And let's say that I can have printed on that card any name I want to, because let's say that I'm going to give the card to my stepson so that he can go buy stuff. And my stepson's name is Brian Wall. Okay. So you mind tell the card company I want that to put on there. So when the credit card comes in, it'll have Brian Wall on it. Then I can go and go to Planet Fitness, have a photograph made with Brian Wall. I can do my Hilton honors in any name I want to. So there's a whole lot of things you can do to build out the pseudo as deep as you want to build it out, if you really want to protect yourself. But anyway, it's up to you. You can go as far down that rabbit hole as you want, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. That'd be a fun little thought experiment to see how deep into that you could get before you crossed any, you know, legal lines there, of course. But
let's talk about that. If a law enforcement officer tells you, what is your freaking name? Show me your ID. You have to, by law, do that.
Yep.
But if somebody, if the night cashier, wants to know your name, it's none of their business. You can tell them whatever you want.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, just don't give away information for free that can hurt you.
Tell me about, you have on here on the notes, use your phone app, phone as your key. What is that?
Yeah, a lot of hotels, will let you use, say, like Hilton or Marriott. You can download a mobile key to your phone and use that to actually get in the room. So now your phone is your key. Now, I don't use those very often, only because it just hasn't really worked out for me at this point. But I know a lot of people who've used them and had a lot of luck with it. But you always got your phone with you. So that's a good way to secure that information as well. And then if something happens and you lose whatever that is, I'm sure it can be re-downloaded easily enough, and you can protect that.
Let's talk about securing not just your valuables, but securing you and your family inside your room.
Yeah.
I carry in my go bag multiple different devices that are travel locks, because like we're staying at an Airbnb. You can tell I'm not in my studio if you're just now joining us. And most every home exterior door opens inward. Okay. This is the first. We're staying in this really old Airbnb, and it's beautiful, but the door, for whatever reason, opens outward. So none of the locks that I carry with me will work because there's a door jamb in the way. Yeah. So I'm like, crap, what am I going to do? Well, because I don't know who has the key to this Airbnb. Right. So I had to set up a little booby trap at the front of the door for anybody walking in on me in the middle of the night. So, and we did the same thing in Rome when we were staying in a real sketchy hotel room a year and a half ago. So I carry these in my go bag. I carry like 3 of them so that if there's multiple entrances and exits, I can lock them all down. But here's a case, Will, where I couldn't. Is there any special things you do to secure yourself in a hotel room?
This one's a twofer. There's a lot of problems with bed bugs throughout the hotel industry. It's not a proliferation or an infestation overall. Just saw the comment there. But it's not uncommon. I've been fortunate. I've never had to deal with bed bugs, but it does happen out there. And the main way they get transported from hotel to hotel and from hotels to home is on your suitcase. So never put your suitcase on the bed. Always use the little stand thing they give. Well, that's a twofer, because what I'll do at night before I go to bed is I'll put that stand in front of the door. So if somebody tries to open the door, there's the secondary lock and all that stuff. But now they're going to knock over my suitcase, and that's going to make enough racket to wake me up. And even if they do keep coming in, now they're stumbling over top of all that stuff. Yeah,
and let's talk about that secondary lock in the hotel room that kind of does like that, like a fork over it.
Yeah.
I carry lock picks everywhere I go, and it's something that I'm a little hobby of mine, right? Well, yeah. Well, again, Justin Carroll has a little plastic thing that can breach those locks like that. Yep. So that's why I carry my own. You're not breaching that unless you're ramming the door.
Right.
Again.
In fact, I just saw a video the other day. Somebody did breach that with 2 rubber bands and some duct tape.
That's absolutely. Yeah. And there's a lot of other things you can do. If it's got the compression spring at the top, you can wrap your belt around it and secure it. There's a whole lot of different ways you can do. But when I go to bed, I put on my sleep mask. I don't wear earplugs, but I do like the room dark. And, I want to get a good night's sleep and not be worried about somebody coming in on me.
Yep. So I do that. If some hotels will have a built-in stand for a suitcase that's, part of a dresser, part of the furniture. And what I'll do in that case then is I'll just take and put the ironing board up against the door.
Oh, good idea.
And that those things, when those things fall down, they make a heck of a racket.
Yeah. And again, if you're just joining us, my name is Rich Brown, co-host, co-founder of the American Warrior Society and the American Warrior Show, America's #1 podcast. I'm a retired Marine Corps officer, former police officer, corrections officer, special operations, etc. And I'm joined this morning by Will Wood, who's a captain for a major airline, and we're talking about travel considerations that, as a professional traveler, that Will does. So tell me about elevators, Will, or stairways. What do you like and why?
Elevators are weird because, you get into a closed-in and confined place with people you don't know. And we all do it willingly, and it's just, if it's one of those weird things where if you took it out of that context and put it somewhere else, everybody'd be nervous, but we're all socially conditioned to do it, right? The first thing I always tell people who are new to traveling is you're not morally obligated to get on an elevator if it doesn't feel right, or go into a stairwell or anywhere else as far as that goes. Especially nowadays with cell phones, you can always just pretend you got a call or got a text. Oh, I got to take this. I'm go ahead, guys. I'll catch the next one. It's just that simple. And then just turn around and walk away. And if they want to be offended, well, that's their prerogative. That's really one of the big ones. I did have one experience on an elevator. I got a weird feeling off these two guys. I got in the elevator and they were like, "Where are you going?" And they hadn't pushed a button yet. And so I said, "Oh, I'm going to 10." And they went, "Oh, us too." And they hit 10. And my spidey sense was going, "Oh, this isn't good." So we got to 10 and the doors open and we all kind of stood there. And I said, "Oh, go ahead, guys. I was wrong. I'm on 12. And they got off kind of, okay, yeah, the old guy got us on that one. And then I went to my room, which was on the 15th floor. And you kind of work through those scenarios ahead of time, and then they'll just kind of flow out of you, just like doing a dry fire session or a walkthrough on a stage for a USPSA match or IDPA match, right? Get prepared for those situations that come up, and bad things happen there. You never know what's going on for sure.
No, that's a great one. And it happened just last night. I was telling my wife as we were leaving the restaurant, I said, "Oh, we need to get coffee for in the morning." And I said, "Okay, there's a Piggly Wiggly that's on the way to the Airbnb." And so I pulled into the parking lot, and as I pulled in, there's this sketchy woman that's like picking up stuff off the ground, and she looks disheveled. And there's like this guy who's dressed literally like a pimp out of an open casting call for pimps, leaning up against an SUV, and the whole parking lot's not lit. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
And Lisa goes, there's a food line down the road. And then we went to the food line, and I got no problem with that. Wave at the pimp and keep them moving,
Exactly. Yep. Keep moving. Just don't. Static targets are easy, right?
Yeah. Manhar says, "Have to get back to work. Cheers, gents. See you soon." Brian is the name.
I think we're going to get a lot of mileage out of Brian Wall here.
Let me tell you a funny story real quick, Will, and then we'll move on.
Right.
So I'm the operations officer in Louisville, Kentucky, and every year they do this big air show called Thunder over Louisville. Mm-hmm. And the Blue Angels come into town, and the Marine that's a pilot with the Blue Angels comes into our office, and me and Dave Brothers, who's here, I think, Dave, you were there, and the pilots come in and they're like, "Hey, just in case we see some kids that want to join the Marine Corps, can I get some of your business cards?" And I go, "Sure, man." So I give them my business card. It says Chief Warrant Officer Brown and my phone number on there. As soon as those damn Blue Angels left town, I had all these women calling me. "Yeah, we met at the club last night, remember?" And I'm like, "You didn't meet me?" And like, "Oh yeah, I got your business card, Rich Brown. Remember we danced?" And I'm like, "Oh, they got me. They got me." True story.
Oh yeah, Rich, you got some explaining to do.
Yeah, Dave Brothers says, "Oh yeah, he remembers." Yeah, that was crazy, man.
Oh yeah. So one last thing on the elevator thing is, if you don't want to go into any confined space right now, COVID is a great excuse. "Oh, hey, sorry, I'm not vaccinated. I'll wait for the next elevator." Anything like that. It's just, and most people, especially with the COVID stuff, are hardwired to be respectful about that, right? And that's a good thing. So it's a great excuse out of any real weird situation, even in a bar. You go down there and all of a sudden things just don't feel right. I mean, you're in a nice hotel, but things are just feeling a little hinky or whatever. You know what, guys? I've been down here for a while. A lot of people here, kind of worried about the whole COVID thing. I'm gonna take off.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've talked about when I had Karen Whitlock on the show, is empowering women to make these decisions, because women are conditioned by society to be pleasing or polite and, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me," and stuff like that. Like, hey, you can tell people to pound sand anytime you want. I don't owe you anything.
That's it.
And I can be rude to you, and I don't want to be. I mean, I'm a Southerner from the Bible Belt. We're conditioned to be good little boys and girls, but at the same time, my safety and security is paramount. And if that hurts your feelings, that's too bad.
Yep.
But there's ways we can use, like you said, COVID as a great cover to be polite and at the same time get what we want. I think that's a great lesson.
Yeah, it's a little I don't know, passive aggressive or what have you, but it's a great social excuse right now. So might as well get something positive out of it.
I agree. So tell me about the room. So you get up to the room.
Yep.
What now?
Way back in the day, there were way too many flight attendants who were attacked inside their rooms by guys who hid in there. Now, this was, when I say back in the day, this is going back quite a ways, back when you had keys. But like you say, like for your Airbnb, you don't know who was there before. Were they there the night before, 2 nights before? Nobody knows, right? So it may be more of an Airbnb thing now than a hotel thing. But when you get there, prop the door open with your suitcase and do a quick search around the room, to include out on the balcony, and make sure that balcony door is locked. I can't tell you how many hotel rooms I walk into, the balcony door is unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, that we came to the Airbnb yesterday, and the instructions were that there's a key under the mat. So we walk up.
Nobody would look there, right?
Yeah. So the key's under the mat. So when you unlock that door, somebody could already be inside waiting. So it's,
Yep.
I mean, these lessons are priceless. I really appreciate you coming on, Will.
Yeah.
So prop open the door, do a security check. Okay.
Prop open the door. I mean, in the usual places, closet, behind the drapes, in the shower, just go through and just check. Check under the beds, of course. A lot of hotels now, the beds have a solid, I don't know what you call it. The area underneath the box spring is solid. There's wood on the sides. Mm-hmm. So you can determine that very quickly. Just give it a quick run through. It doesn't have to be any more than probably a minute total, if that. Mm-hmm. And it can be hard to do, end of a long day. You've been traveling all day, but just take that moment.
Absolutely. So what about when we leave our room?
If you get a regular key, they give you that little sleeve that, it says room 312 or whatever on it. I never take that with me. Because if I drop my key somewhere now, they have the key and they know the hotel and the room number. I just gave them the trifecta. So I'll leave the sleeve there in the room, and I memorize the room number. And my trick for that is I'll use telephone keypad. So if it's 513, I'll just do that code over and over in the air like that, and then until I got it, then I walk out the room. And if we're staying at some hotel, when we did our family trip to the Caribbean, it was all the room numbers had 6 digits, and I'm just not going to remember that at this point in life. It's just not going to happen. So I just texted it to a buddy of mine at home. Meant absolutely. If somebody would have picked up my phone, it would have meant absolutely nothing to him. So you can do stuff like that, and then if you lose your key somewhere, no worries, man. You get back to the hotel, go to the front desk, show them your ID, get a room key.
Yeah, Alan Kelly says my wife used to call me paranoid for doing these things, but not now. The way things are going in this country. Good friend of mine, neighbor. We were talking about stuff, and he was like, "Well, you a little paranoid?" And I said, "Well, everything's an over preparation until the day it isn't." That's right.
I haven't bent a car since 1990 something. Still put my seatbelt on every time, and I don't have them take the airbags out.
Exactly. So, yeah, same here, man. The last car I crashed was a patrol car in 1997. I still wear that damn seatbelt every single day.
Yep.
And especially for an airline pilot, there are checklists for everything you got to do, right? How many times have you taken off and land, and every time I'm sure you or the first officer are looking at the checklist, flaps to 25 degrees or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's kind of part of it goes with the pilot personality. We're regimented. We do things a certain way. It's kind of been beaten into us by the career path. And I don't think that's just pilots. I've never been a cop, but I'm guessing cops are much the same way. You've got certain ways you do things. And obviously you guys ran into a lot more dynamic situations, but you have to have a baseline to work off of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you another thing, since we're talking about pilots, on my go bag, I have 2 or 3 things inside that bag that are not TSA approved. Let's just put it that way. Mm-hmm. So I have these remove before flight tags hanging out of the bag or on the side of the bag on the item. Yeah. And that way I never want to go through TSA and have them freak out, because I was flying one time with a former CAG operator and Mike Seeklander. And this dude went from CAG, retired, and then became a federal air marshal. So he's always carried with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, me and Mike get through TSA, and all of a sudden this dude gets surrounded by officers. And he's got stuff in his bag he ain't supposed to fly with. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. He told us later, because normally I've carried flashbangs and submachine guns on plane. This is not a big deal. But that day, everybody freaked out.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it was some of them assault nail clippers, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good one. And Mike and I are going to do a video series coming up. I know I've been teasing this for a while, but we're finally putting the dates on the books to do some filming of what we carry in our go bags and how we set up our trucks. Because like you said, it's over preparation to the day it's not.
I mean, I've got my truck set up. It's, my kids call it the Mad Max truck. And, I've got down in the what do you call that? The map pocket on the driver's side door. I got tourniquet, quick clot gauze, a knife, a flashlight, small pair. But I mean, you name it. I've got a Batman utility belt in the door of my truck. And I've got a go bag in the back and, all the usual stuff. So at least I think it's usual.
Exactly. It is to me too.
So.
And Dave Brothers brings up a great book. He says, let's see, reference a tool. I can't pronounce the gentleman's last name, but the book is The Checklist Mentality. Yeah. Big fan of checklists.
Yeah. Well,
so
one thing in aviation is we use the standard operating procedures, but probably like a lot for the military, it's a training thing, but it also gives you a baseline to work off of. If somebody's suddenly doing something that is outside of that, it's like, okay, why is Rich doing that? Is he just making a mistake? We're all human. We make mistakes, or is there something going on that I'm not seeing that he needs to be doing this? And he's so busy, he just hasn't said something, hasn't brought it to my attention. Or I just need to be like, hey, Rich, knock it off, man. What are you doing? But having that baseline to go off of, whether it's, with the family, my family, just from us being around each other, they know about how I'm going to act. Right. And within that, the wife and I also have a phrase. If one of us just has a bad feeling about some place we're at, you don't have to be like, this place is weird, let's get out of here. Neither one of us are smokers. We go, hey, let's go grab a smoke.
Oh, I like that.
And that's our code for pay the check and get out.
Yeah, I like it. I'm stealing that, man.
Just send me a quarter each time you use it. Okay.
I thought you billed by the every 15 minutes.
15-minute increments. Yeah, but it's only $1 an hour, so it's 25 cents. So,
how do you handle valuables though? Because not everything. Some things have to be left in the room.
Sure. I would say probably 4 or 5 times a year, I'll show up at a hotel room, open it up, and there's people's stuff in there. Unfortunately, I don't have any good stories about anything I've interrupted.
I do. I'll tell you about it.
But a number of times, I mean, I opened the door up and there was stuff laying all over the room. And of course, I just closed the door, went back to the front desk and said, can I get a room I don't have to share with someone else? But you don't know if that person opening the door is going to be honest like that. There's just no way of knowing. So by the same token, how many times, if people walked into your room when you were out seeing the sights of that city, right? So I'll try to spread things out, right? Because anybody who's in your room, they don't know when you're going to show up again. So they're not going to spend any more time in there than they have to. There's the safe in the hotel room, of course. I'll use those on family vacations. I will also spread out cash or other valuables between different bags. Take some with me as is appropriate for what we're doing. The other one I'll do is, my suitcases, they have the nylon liners in them with a zipper. Unzip that, put stuff in there, zip it back up, throw clothes, shoes, whatever, better yet, dirty laundry in there. They're only going to take so much time. Yeah.
That's a great idea. It's a phenomenal idea. The liner inside there, I never thought stealing that one too.
Well, that's two.
I know, man. That's another 15-minute increment.
Yeah, exactly. You're up to 50 cents now.
So yeah, I want to tell you, man, so as a Hilton Diamond member for years, traveling every single week, man, I get my key, I'm tired, I walk down and I hit the door, open it up, and there's two gentlemen on the bed clinking glasses of champagne, and they look over their shoulder at me, and I'm like, sorry. And another time, I come back to the hotel and my room key won't work. So I go down there and I go, yeah, this room key doesn't work. Like, what room are you in? Like, oh no, you checked out this morning. I'm like, no, I didn't. Where's all my stuff?
Mhm.
So they had thought I left everything, had bagged it up, locked it away. I could not get access to my stuff until the maintenance person come back the next day. And I'm there in a military uniform. I have none of my glamour products I use to keep this. This ain't
Make
an
all,
accident.
make all the magic happen,
Yeah,
right?
this ain't an accident, bro. This takes work. But yeah, it was. So all those things happen, and anything you can do to preempt it, the better. And it was one of those things like, no, I thought the reservation said. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So any other things on valuables? I do want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
On the
On the other thing I like to do is carry cash with you.
Yeah.
I see. I had one. It was down in the Caribbean. It was on a family trip. We're out on the tip of this island. Nighttime. There's like these. I'll call them food trucks out there. And just delicious food, awesome music. We're all enjoying ourselves. Everybody's around these different picnic tables. We're all socializing, having a great time. And then I noticed a little something starting over here, and it's a younger couple. And next thing you know, the owner of the food truck's over there, and I hear, "What do you mean you can't pay?" And I'm like, that's kind of weird. I mean, you can afford a trip to a Caribbean island, but you can't afford food truck level pricing. That's kind of strange.
Can of food, fish tacos. Come on, man.
Yeah. And well, what it was all they had was, Cash App type stuff. They didn't have any cash on them. And there's no cell service out here. And the owner of the food truck had no clue how to use any of that stuff anyway. And, so carry some cash, I carried, it's not a lot of money, $250, $300 in cash and small bills tucked inside the liner of my suitcase at all times. If the next 9/11 is cyber attack on banks, a couple $100 is going to go a long ways.
Yeah. When I had the other podcast, Across the Peak, we had, I think it was Joshua Sheets, who's is kind of a finance guy of the apocalypse. And, he recommends carrying like $1,000 in your go bag or whatever at all times. And I don't know that I've ever reached 1,000, but I normally carry around 500 ish.
Yeah.
But I think 1,000 is not a bad idea because it can get you a plane ticket, get you out of there, get you hotel rooms. I mean, it's enough to make a couple of moves if you need to. But my lovely bride and I, we were in Italy, and thank God we got some euros before we left the airport, because the first like 3 places we went to, they have spotty Wi-Fi in these countries. So you're trying to use your credit card. You may not be able to. So again, cash is king.
Yep.
Please make sure. Tony says, never buy fish tacos from the Roach Coach.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Or carry some Imodium AD if you do. Hey, I wanted to talk about,
as long as you brought that up, my bride is giving me grief. She swears I carry a pharmacy in my bag. But there's nothing worse than being sick on the road, and you can't. The nearest Walgreens or CVS is, a mile away, and you took the shuttle from the airport to the hotel. How are you going to get there? Yeah, you can Uber and Lyft it, but you don't feel good. It's not going to be a fun experience. For a few bucks, outfit your bag with some Imodium. Like I get seasonal allergies, so I keep some of that stuff in there. And it's just some ibuprofen, some basic stuff.
Yeah, same here, brother. I have and it's like a little Ziploc sandwich bag full of Imodium and stuff like that. I also have in there iodine tablets. If I'm in there's some sort of radiological accident, I've got 2 or 3 days worth of iodine tablets for me and my bride. which is something I learned from an airline pilot who's a member of the American War Society.
Yep.
So it's not a bad idea. It certainly can't help. It weighs almost nothing. It takes up very small little area of your bag, but man, I tell you, it could pay dividends.
Yep, sure can. And you can use it to help somebody else out too, and bring them into the preparedness fold a little bit too. I've had a few experiences like that where I was able to help somebody out. And, before that, they were maybe a little more on the sheep mentality. And afterwards they were like, you know what, that was a pretty good idea. That helped me out. And so it can help foster those people coming along.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk about, I know it's not necessarily on the outline, but it's something that I have to consider. And I know you do too, Will, and that is traveling with firearms or pointy things and stuff. There's all these laws and regulations that really make it hard to stay on the right side of the law. Like I'll be going up to New Jersey here in a couple weeks to do some training. And I have to follow the Jersey laws, even though I'm there to do firearms training with a federal agency.
Yeah.
So it creates a lot of hurdles to cross over, man. Is there anything that you use to kind of navigate those waters?
For personal travel, I'll use, because I'm not doing training like you are. I'll use USCCA's reciprocity map. And then just a good general search. And I've actually just called, the police station where I'm going and going, hey, I want to stay on the right side of the law here. What are your laws? Please tell me.
Yeah. And,
that way I've got a record of my cell phone, hey, I called, here's my notes from that call. If maybe they forgot to mention something and I end up sideways, I can show I did some due diligence and made every attempt to follow the law.
And I had a friend of mine who carried in his wallet, like he would print off, went to tn.gov or whatever, Tennessee.gov, that has all the list of states that have written reciprocity agreements with these other states, folded it up, miniaturized it, stuck it in his wallet in case the police officer that stops him is not aware of it.
Yeah.
So there's different things you can do, but I mean, it gets us, New Jersey specifically is incredibly weird with, like, you cannot have hollow point ammunition.
Yeah.
You can't have, no magazines over 10 round capacity. I don't own any that are that small.
Yeah. You mean regular size magazines?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not interested in that. Yeah,
exactly. So the nice thing about going to New Jersey is you're still really close to America. So yeah, it's tough when you go to these places. And it's just, I like having my tools with me as much as the next, person does, but it's just that little bit of advantage you might get in some cases may not be worth the potential downside.
Yeah, totally. And James, my good friend James, has downloaded an app called Legal Heat. It's a live app that's constantly being updated state by state gun laws. Yeah, and like Alan says, Virginia has screwed with the concealed carry reciprocity. I know there for a while, the reciprocity agreement between Tennessee and Virginia lapsed, and there was maybe several weeks that. But and again, you got to stay abreast of that. So Legal Heat is probably a good idea if it's being updated in real time.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. So anything else on before you leave your hotel room?
Not really. I will look at, okay, where's the nearest stairs, the nearest emergency exit? When I come out of the room, do I go left or right? Let's just start with that.
Yeah.
And then is it end of the hallway, straight ahead? Is it, do I get to the end of the hallway and take a right? I'll kind of, gameplay that out a little bit in my head. Again, it takes all 30 seconds. Just turn around, look at the door. You're already facing out at that point. And just look at the map and figure your ways out. One thing to be aware of when you take those steps is you don't know where they're going to dump you out at either. Mm-hmm. I just had one, as a personal trip, I was in DC and, decided the elevators were packed one morning. So I decided to take the stairs downstairs, and we were only on like the third or fourth floor. I went downstairs and this stairwell went down. You could tell you were on the second floor, and it just kept going and going in this hallway. And I was like, where in the world is this thing going to dump me out at? So now I had to know, so I kept going, and it dumped me out on the far side of the hotel. And it took me a moment to get my bearings and go, oh, okay, this is where I am. Well, middle of the night, there's fire trucks everywhere and there's lights going off. I mean, first off, just get out of the burning building, right? But after that, you want to have some idea where you're at.
That's a great one. And I tell you, my brother who's on the show this morning, he'll remember this. One of my dad was worked for a Japanese conveyor company. So as we were growing up, and he was always going to Japan, and he was always having Japanese engineers coming and staying with us. Well, my brother's just saying that my dad's friend died in India. This Japanese engineer, he's doing work in India, and my dad was going back and forth to India as well. And they don't have building codes around the world like we do here in America. So in this particular instance, the hotel in India caught fire. The elevators shut off. They go down the stairwell, and it dead ends. There's no exit. And 20-something people were found dead of smoke inhalation at the bottom of this stairwell. So to your point, it is incredibly important, if you're going to use that as your escape, to do what Will's telling you. Go all the way down, find out where it's going to dump you out. Where is it in relation to the parking garage and everything else? Because, this was a guy that my brother and I knew. He would come visit for Christmas and stuff like this. And to have him die in such a needless way was ridiculous. But we take for granted that the laws around the world, the international building codes, are going to be the same everywhere. They're not.
No, not at all. Not at all. And level of care for medical too.
Yes.
You've traveled out of the States quite a bit. There's no, especially oddly enough, you get in the Caribbean, it can be real hit. You go to one hotel and you might as well be in, fill in the blank city in America. You go to another one and it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Something to be aware of if you're traveling outside the U.S.
Yeah, and my brother's on here. I'll throw Jeff another bone, and I think I don't remember where you were in Africa, Jeff, but literally he got sick, and the government there said, "Okay, we're going to send you to a doctor. We don't have medical here in this country." The U.S. didn't, so they send Jeff to literally an African witch doctor. So I mean, like you said, the level of care, man, it's not a joke.
Yeah, yep, it's something to think about, especially if somebody has, maybe significant ongoing chronic type medical problems. Maybe even make contact with a doctor out there and just say, hey, can I send you any relevant information about what's going on with me right now? And if something happens, you can kind of be my go-to person.
Yeah, and I always carry in my go bag, I have 2 weeks worth of my medications and my wife's medications in addition to the rolling pharmacy, because I do not want to be we went to we were somewhere in Europe. My daughter had something come up, and so we're like, oh my gosh, this is something unplanned. We go to a pharmacy, and because a lot of the pharmacies you can just get whatever you want. You don't need a doctor's prescription. So we went to the pharmacy, and they're like, oh no, you got to see a chemist and have them design this for you. And we're like, see a chemist?
Yeah.
So funny enough, we get back on the street, and we're walking down the street, like, where are we going to find a chemist? And there's a chemist. And we go in there like, hey, this is what they said. You need to mix up this product for us. They mix it up on the spot, put it in some pills. She took it and she was fine. Wow. So again, it's amazing what you learn. We take for granted that things are going to be the way they are in the States, and they're not. If you have any plans to travel outside the country, you're going to have to do your homework.
Yep. And when those things happen, you got to go with the flow. You got to, because, becoming the ugly American isn't going to help your case any. They don't care how you do it back home. It just don't matter.
Yeah, it's completely irrelevant. So speaking of taking all these medical precautions, how do you stay fit while you're on the road?
Hotel gyms run the gamut. I've seen, there's some I've been to that are literally full blown health clubs where people who live in the area join and go there to get their workout in. And of course, those are awesome because you can go do whatever you need to do. There's other ones that literally it's a regular size hotel room with 3 ellipticals, a treadmill, and a set of dumbbells with half of them missing. So I started doing a lot of body weight and TRX work. In general, hotel gyms have gotten better, but then you can also get into, how full are they? Are there COVID restrictions? I've been to some where it's one person at a time.
Yes.
And you sign up for your hour or 45 minutes or whatever they let happen. And, it's nice because you get the gym to yourself. You can set up a circuit, do whatever you like. But you also might have to wait until a time that you don't want to work out. Like for me, if I work out too late, I can't fall asleep. So I can just go back to the room and do my TRX. You familiar with those, Rich?
Oh yeah. Seeklander carries those, and he'll just go out to find a tree out in the parking lot and wear it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love my TRX. I'll do body weight stuff. I'll do a deck of cards workout, diamonds or push-ups, clubs or sit-ups, whatever, go through and do those. I've also used Atomic Athlete, which has a discount code with AWS there. Mm-hmm. They've got body weight stuff on there that I've used. You just kind of make it happen. You just go out for a jog, but again, be aware of your surroundings and where you're at too.
Yes. I don't think Mike is on this morning, but he and I will run the stairs a lot of times. And at the top of the stairs, we'll do push-ups. At the bottom of the stairs, we'll be carrying our metal knives, and we'll do a practice routine from Mike Janet, martial blade stuff. Yep. When I was traveling every week, when I was in the Marine Corps, I carried the rubber band, the bands, the resistance bands, because they weigh nothing. They take up very little room. Yep. And you can set your phone to time. I'd carry the bands and a jump rope more often than not. Yep. Because the hotels were so spotty with the gyms, you could get hooked on the fact that there's going to be stuff there, and then you get there and there's nothing there.
Yep. Matter of fact, I've stolen that idea from you and Mike and run the stairs. And I've done top and bottom like you have. I've also stopped at every floor and done 5 push-ups and go up and down. And it's it's pretty easy to get a decent workout in if a person's committed to it.
Yeah, totally. And I tell you, knowing your surroundings again, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in Memphis, Tennessee, downtown, and I got my PT gear on, and I walk out into the lobby, and this lovely little black lady behind the counter, she says, "Where you going, baby?" I said, "I'm going for a run, ma'am." She says, "Not unless you got some Rottweilers with you, you're not." And I said, "What's that?" She's like, "Honey, a nice little white boy like you don't need to be running here. Go in the thing. There's a treadmill in there." I'm like,
again, if you go, you're going to be running real fast.
Yeah. And so again, I say, listen to the guy on the ground. If the guy or gal on the ground is telling you this is some important localized information, you may want to listen to what they're saying.
Yep. And, like in her case, she's looking out for you, so it'd be disrespectful to go ahead and walk outside anyway, if nothing else. Go jump on the treadmill. Who cares? Better say sorry.
Exactly. And see, so she tells me that from behind the counter, and there's a gentleman mopping the floor, a little old black man. And he looks at me and he goes, so he's seconding her information. I'm like,
that's 2 clues.
Yeah. Thanks guys. Enjoy your morning. I go in there.
Yep. Better safe than sorry. Just, it's like walking into a situation, just looking at it from a self-defense awareness type situation. Take in the information and trust your gut. You had 2 people here telling you, nah, you don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, I'm a Tennessean. This is my state. I can't go out here. You better not. Yeah. Jeff asked the question, how does Will deal with people that take his passport when you're traveling?
I haven't really had to deal with that. And
I'll tell you my experience with that, because everywhere I go, they do that stuff.
Do they? Okay. And this is like, I kind of get it. People get, I don't know, maybe a little annoyed with me sometimes. They're like, "Hey, what can I take through the TSA checkpoint?" I'm like, I don't know. Different set of rules for flight crew. I have no idea what your rules are.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm not really the right guy to ask on that. You probably know more than I do on that.
Well, in Europe and some other places, they will, if you're renting a hotel room or an Airbnb or whatever, they have to, by their law, make a photocopy of your passport. And the first couple times it happened, I'm like, what the hell? I need to see your passport. I'm like, to go to a hotel room? Why do you need to see my passport? I booked this online from the States. But I guess part of their law is they make a photocopy of it. And it's a little sketchy when they take your passport and walk into another room. You're like,
Yeah.
But just be warned that some places that's part of their law and what they have to do.
Yeah. And that's, and that's where, yeah, you didn't know that ahead of time. You figured it out. But, these are the types of things to, what can I expect when I get to fill in the blank place?
Yeah.
And there's probably some cautionary tales in there for us as Americans for privacy, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, but again, how do you get around that? You just don't. I mean, yeah. And that's part of the travel. Tell me about medical gear when you're flying.
Well, the first thing I tell people is, carry it. Know how to use it. Get it. Go take a class. It's not rocket surgery. We're just putting a tourniquet on, right? God forbid another 9/11 happens. If the air marshals, get the airplane back, there's probably only a couple people on the airplane that actually know how to fly the silly thing. So if one of them's hurt bad enough and you can deliver some aid, that could save the day. Even if you don't deliver the aid, if you can just get the supplies to somebody who can take care of it, or you might be saving yourself. So I carry tourniquet, quick clot, gauze, Coflex, paracord with me. Just basic, your basic stuff. Nothing crazy. But carry it with you. All that stuff's legal inside TSA. And it's just there's no different than having it in your vehicle. It's cheap insurance.
Yeah, and I just on that topic, I carry a needle decompression, even though I've never been trained in it. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't know how to do it, but I've got it just in case there's somebody there, a doctor or something, a paramedic that don't have it but knows how to do it. Like, here you go, pal.
Yeah,
use that thing. I mean, I've been trained on it loosely from a paramedic, like you do this, do that, but I would be terrified to kill somebody with that thing. But having it, like you said, so that I can give it to somebody when needed.
Exactly. So you sure can't make it appear all of a sudden, and it doesn't cost that much to have it ahead of time.
No, it doesn't. So what kind of tools do you carry?
If it's personal travel, I'll usually check a bag, assuming, I can carry wherever I'm going. Of course, I'll have my firearm, spare magazine, usually 2 knives. And that, of course, assuming I can carry all that there, I'll have that with me. And as soon as we get to the destination, I'll gun back up. Because why not? Right.
Yeah.
So,
I've gunning up, man. I've gunned up in the airport before I left.
Oh,
if it's a sketchy looking place, I'll walk right into the restroom, gun up, and walk out. And now that may not be necessarily legal, or Mike and I have, we'll pull off the side of the road and gun up. Yeah. I mean, whatever you got to do.
Yeah, I always do it outside the airport because it's gray. It's pretty gray.
It's really gray.
I was trying to be nice about it. But so just get that stuff, get those tools back on you. You got your force multipliers there. You get them available.
What other considerations when it comes to tools, Will?
We're a pretty active family when we're on vacation. So we'll go biking, hiking, kayaking, all that stuff. So if I'm someplace where I can't carry anything, even anything, pointy, it's always good to have a few tools there in case the bicycle breaks down or what have you, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll swing when a lot of times we'll swing by the local Walmart and get, case of water for the room and some snacks and stuff like that. I'll pick up just a cheap little hammer, a couple screwdrivers, things like that. And when we're out and about, I usually carry one of those Vertex sling bags. Mm-hmm. So I'll keep that stuff with me. And if those tools still happen to be in there after the bike trip is over, well, I'm kind of forgetful that way. So they're there and available, and there's nothing illegal about having a hammer, right?
That's right.
So,
And see, that's the thing. A lot of people, I just dropped my mouse. A lot of people don't realize, in the UK, you can't carry anything for self-defense, not a single thing. But you can't carry a screwdriver because you might need to fix your bike.
Yeah.
You can't carry a hammer as long as you can justify why you're carrying it. Now, we have a member of the American Wear Society who is a London police officer, and a lot of these things I've ran by him before we've traveled over there. And he said, man, I see people all the time. They'll carry like a pear in their go bag and then like a knife. And he said that's pushing it. Like, well, we're going to go on a picnic. And a lot of times they let them go. It just depends on the officer. Sometimes they won't. But I think if you're on a bicycle and you have a wrench and a screwdriver, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Plausible deniability, right?
Absolutely. Anything else, Will, on tools?
Depending where I am, just a little utility knife. Just that by itself. I mean, it's not much of a blade, but as we tragically saw, 20 years and a couple of days ago, it worked on 9/11. So I'll carry that. I took one from you with the padlock and a bandana.
Yeah.
That I carry that. I'm a big fan of flashlights. You can have your big old mag light that, can reach out and touch someone, but even just a flashlight just to flash in somebody's eyes and still use as a short Kubaton can be great. And you can clip that in your pocket anywhere. Nobody's going to hassle you about that anywhere.
And I think that's a great little segue there, Will, as far as, as countries and states and cities and municipalities try to disarm lawful Americans, they can't take Jeet Kune Do away from Will Wood.
Yeah. They
can't take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu away from Will Wood. That is the gray matter between your ears is often grossly more important than any little piece of kit you can carry with you. And I know we say this on almost every show, and I'm saying it again. And one of the things when it comes to tools and how do you make them look nondescript, my lovely bride and I are going to be going to the beach tomorrow. And I've seen people, I've never done this personally, but I've seen people say, take your valuables and wrap them up in a diaper so that it looks like a used diaper laying there next to the thing. Nobody's going to touch that. I think that might be a good idea to try someday.
Yeah. I'm not going to mess with it. That's for sure. I'm done through that stage with the kids. So
same here.
Yeah. So I mean that a little bit of urban camouflage and it doesn't have to be foolproof. It just has to work that one time.
That's right.
It's that one sample size.
Well, Will, I've kept you on here about an hour and a half, and we've given a lot of sound advice, things that not just in theory but things that we've actually done and tried and many times. Is there any final thoughts for the viewers and listeners?
No, I mean, the biggest one is, if you go on vacation, don't leave your skills at home. Don't leave your tools that you can carry at home, and don't switch off. It's the whole preparedness, self-defense stuff that, you and Mike have been talking about for years now, since I found your podcast way back. Just because you're on vacation, don't switch that stuff off. The bad guys will prey on that.
Yeah, they absolutely will. And one final thing regards to like being a gray man. We were going to a city in Europe, my wife and I, and doing all my pre-work. And again, let's talk about pre-work real quick. Mm-hmm. People experience joy in three different ways. They experience joy in the planning for something. They experience joy when they're doing the thing. And then thirdly, they experience joy in the memories of the event. So you can find a lot of joy, or at least I can, in pre-planning a trip to a beautiful location. I really enjoy it. It doesn't take away anything to like look at route selection. Oh my God, we're going to go here and this museum is there. And
right.
And then we'll rent a carriage here, and all those things are enjoyable to me, and they should be enjoyable. But I guess my point is, I was reading that the city we were planning on going to was the pickpocket capital of the world. Well, how do you stay safe there? So I bought a money belt.
Mhm.
And then I looked at the photos from Google, the street view. And of course, I got the people's faces blurred out, but I looked at how people were dressed.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, it's everybody in this European city dresses like this. And I was reading one of the travel forums, and this guy's like, oh my God, I got pickpocketed. We lost our passwords. We had to go to and somebody said, well, how were you dressed? And this guy's like, LA Lakers hoodie and basketball shorts. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, you look like
Ooh, rob me. Rob
yeah,
me. Yeah.
and a baseball hat. Nobody in this European country wears baseball hats.
Yeah.
So again, we went there. We looked like the locals. We had
Yep.
no freaking problem.
Yep. Yep. And part of it's interesting you bring that up. Part of it with the pre-planning is having that base knowledge helps me more enjoy the moment when we're there, because I'm not trying to figure stuff out as we go. I have I'll still be evaluating things, but I have some idea where to go, where not to go. And that helps me be more present for whatever we're doing.
Man, that's so true. That is so true. And I've mentioned on the show several times, my wife be like, how do you know it's up 2 blocks and over one and it's the red door on the left? I'm like, I've already been down this street as I was enjoying the trip before we went on the trip. And like you said, now I don't have to sweat it all. I want cab, drop me off here.
Yep.
Thank you. And I'm out and I go right down to the red door.
Yeah. Yep.
Any final thoughts or considerations?
Not really. No, I think we covered a lot of territory there.
Yeah, I've absolutely enjoyed it. It's been a great show, Will.
It's been awesome, man. I'm glad you invited me on.
Yeah, thanks for being on. And thanks for everybody that watched today. Hopefully we gave you some things to consider and make you safer in the future, because the fight is coming, folks. Be ready.